Now, if you're into gaming, then the BenQ X3000i may be the perfect projector for you. This thing delivers an incredibly crisp image, but it's so much fun. Don't forget to hit the red button to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up and click the notification bell to get my next video first. Now I will show you a little bit later how I completely smashed that lap, but let's concentrate first of all on unboxing this projector. And one of the first things that you're going to notice when you take it out of the box is that it is quite big. Now a couple of comparable projectors which I've looked at recently are the Nebula Cosmos and the Horizon 4K Pro. Now let me know whether you'd like a comparison with this one as well, but this is definitely the bigger. To give you an idea of the weight, it's 6.4 kilos or 14.1 pounds, so this is what I would call a chunky monkey. Now in terms of the dimensions, we're looking at 10.7 inches by 7.8 inches by 10.2 inches, so it's almost a perfect square, but I think it looks good. What's your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Now the sound on this thing isn't the greatest, it's just two 5-watt speakers, but I would recommend using the ARC HDMI port to hook this up to a surround sound system. Now speaking of connectivity, there is another HDMI port on the back. There's also a hidden connectivity, which I'll show you in just a second, and the rest of the connections are exactly what you would expect. Nice to see that you've got a 12-volt trigger and you've got the RS232. I really like the front. There's a nice printed type design which is subtle but looks pretty good, and then on the side you've got all of the functions for zoom and focus. These are both manual controls and full buttons for digitally controlling it if you want to not use the remote, and these are pretty clear and easy to read, but they're not backlit. Talking of remote, it's a fairly standard remote which comes with this projector. It isn't backlit, which is a shame, but it does operate both the media stick and also the projector itself. Its source on this projector is a 4 LED system. Now LED will give you a lifespan of around 20,000 hours or 30,000 hours in eco mode. Having that extra 4th LED actually increases the green that's pumped into it and gives you an overall brightness increase of around about 8 to 12%. And it also helps the degeneration of the projector, so it gives you much more color accuracy much longer into the lifespan of the actual unit. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that this does come with the BenQ QS01. This is the media stick which plugs into the projector, and to get to that you do this. Now I do have to say it is a little bit of a faff, but once it's in there it's easy to secure. It powers itself by the USB, and then you've got the extra HDMI ports on the back, and you don't actually remember that it's in there. Those of you wondering whether you can get a Fire Stick in there, well, I tried it with a Fire Stick Max and a Fire Stick 4K, and unfortunately, because the USB lead that comes out of the inside of the projector has got that quite wide end, and where the USB port is on the actual Fire Stick, it means that it hits against the rim where I've popped the arrow, and so you can't actually put that in, which is a little bit frustrating because it would fit in there if it wasn't for that. So this is the full package that you get, and you'll notice that there's a couple of extra feet, and it's quite a clever little thing that, because the extra feet are so that you can mount it upside down on a table if you want to. Underneath the projector are also all the connections that you need to ceiling mount this, so you've got a multiple array of different options for how you're going to position it. As you can see, I've got mine just on a small table between my cinema chairs, and it's around 10 feet away from the screen. Let me just show you the setup process before we go into picture quality. Now it's really important to put any projector as close to being in the perfect position without having any electronic adjustments. Many people think nowadays just because a projector has vertical and horizontal keystoning, you can throw it anywhere and then just adjust it. This projector particularly you want to get in as close to the perfect place as possible, because it does have a direct effect on its latency. So the more electronic adjustments you'll have with 2D keystoning, then it will slow the projector down or slow the response time down. You are absolutely fine to use the mechanical zoom. That doesn't have any effect on latency at all. Now, as with many BenQ projectors, you do have one of the most accurate out-of-the-box settings and calibration of any projector that I've seen. However, I did find that this one was slightly on the blue side, so I did have to just tone that down slightly, and I always recommend user settings anyway. If you can calibrate this very simply if you've got the equipment to do so, but don't worry about it too much. Don't get stressed about it certainly, but go into the user settings and just dial down those colors, check it in HDR mode and also in standard mode. One feature I do really like on the recent BenQ projectors is either simple menu mode mode or advanced menu mode, which is what we're in now. But you can switch it over to simple mode very easily, and that will just give you some more simple options. So if you don't really want to or like to go in and change all of those settings we just showed you a second ago, then you can literally just swing through them here. So the BenQ 4K media stick, which runs the operating system, it's Android TV, and yes, you've guessed it, it doesn't have Netflix there, so you will need another workaround, and that makes the whole not Fire Stick fitting into the hole even more frustrating. But you can obviously just pop the Fire Stick into the HDMI port on the back and solve that Netflix problem that way. Other than that, it runs really snappily, it's very, very fast, there is no problem with everything else about this software. It looks good, it runs smoothly, and all of the other main apps like Disney and Apple TV, all of those are there. The X3000i is exceptional for gamers. It is just unbelievably quick, and the 3 different modes that you have, FPS, RPG and SPG, are absolutely fantastic. I kept mine in first-person shooter mode most of the time, and I found that was brilliant. In terms of input lag, again, it's incredible. It's just 16 milliseconds from 4K at 60Hz, 8 milliseconds from 1080p at 120Hz, and a mind-blowing 4 milliseconds from 1080p at 240Hz. Okay, it's time to turn this projector on now and see what it delivers during daylight viewing. So this picture that you're seeing now is with 2 blinds open. It's the brightest this room gets. It's around about midday, and as you can see, it's still watchable. As the blind comes down though, you can see that it takes on a whole nother view. If you see any flickering at all, guys, that's just the camera frequency. It's nothing to do with the actual projector itself. And as you can see now, this is still middle of the day. Both of those lamps at the front are on. There's still light coming through the doorway, and it looks brilliant. Now, it would be quite easy just to think the fact that they're billing this as a gaming projector, that it doesn't do a brilliant job at other things. And that's where you'd be wrong, because I was blown away with the quality of the image. I just thought it was fantastic. No matter what I put through this, it looked absolutely stunning. The colours, this being the 3000 ANSI lumens, the brightness and the vividness of the colours were far in excess of what I was expecting. I thought it looked brilliant, guys. The black level detail on some darker scenes, which I'll come on to in a second, is a little bit ropey, but then that is the same with any of these DLP projectors. But guys, what's your thoughts on what you're seeing so far? So the contrast ratio on this projector is pretty good as well at 500,000 to 1. I found that it did a really good job. One of the scenes I always check for is this in the Gemini Man, and as you can see, all of the detail on that notebook is not blown out at all. It looks absolutely fantastic. In fact, I think that is one of the best that I've seen recently. I mentioned that blacks were a little bit ropey, and that is probably a little bit unfair. This does as good a job as any other projector that I've seen. It has still got some shadow detail there, but it just hasn't got obviously the deep dark blacks that you would come to associate with an OLED or something similar. Now, with the projector right next to me, I was surprised how quiet this thing is. Measuring it, it was between 28 and 32 decibels, which is on the low end, and that's perfectly acceptable. What is quite nice is that you actually get a nice little warm breeze coming from the fan, so you may even save on your heating bill. Now, one thing I also like to do is just watch normal TV and see how it does with skin tones, and something like the news is a really good way of seeing that. It's natural, it's not been HDR'd or anything like that, it's just normal TV. And I thought this projector did a brilliant job. It was very, very watchable, skin tones look natural. If anything, the projector maybe just edges towards being slightly oversaturated in terms of colours, but that's very, very easy just to dial back if you want to. But overall, I was really happy with what this projector did on anything I put through it. But the one thing I would have to say is that when I did start throwing gaming at this, it then lifted it to a level which you don't often see on other projectors. It really just felt much more natural than some of them do, and that reduced input lag was definitely very noticeable. I think that it looked brilliant, the colours, the brightness, everything was just spot on the money. It really did feel like this was the next level. And certainly from testing the gaming projector from BenQ that I did a few weeks ago, this definitely seemed better, but I might do a comparison on that. So I'm going to show you some more stats while I'm showing you that racing lap which I absolutely smashed earlier, so that you can read a little bit more about this projector and what stats it's got for those of you that are interested. But overall, guys, if you're at all into gaming, I would say that this has got to be a real consideration for you. It absolutely smashes it out of the park. Okay, so I do have to say I am blown away by the gaming element of this projector. projector, but let me give you some more details. This is a DLP projector. Now, I didn't find any noticeable rainbow effect, but I don't really suffer from that anyway. The light source is LED, it's 4 LED as I explained earlier, with 20,000 hours in normal mode, or if you put it in eco mode, which I don't really recommend, you can get 30,000 hours. The throw ratio for this is 1.15 to 1.5. You do have that optical zoom of 1.3 times, which is quite handy, and you get a projection offset of 110%. So you need to bear that in mind if you're going to be ceiling mounting it. You might have to lower your screen slightly. Keystone is plus or minus 30 degrees, and that's the same for whether it's vertical or horizontal keystoning. But again, try not to do too much keystoning. Minimum and maximum screen size, it does say it's 30 inches to 300 inches, but really the clear image size is between 60 inches and 200 inches. Picture modes, well, it does support 3D, there's a bright mode of cinema, a game, HDR, HDR game, HDR10, HLG, living room, sport, and also a user mode. So there's plenty in there. I had mine in user mode most of the time because I wanted to change and calibrate those colors a little bit. The input lag, as we spoke about earlier, in fast mode, you have 16 milliseconds, 4K at 60 Hz, 4 milliseconds, 1080p at 240, and 8 milliseconds, 1080p at 120 Hz. Do bear in mind though, if you are using a lot of keystoning, that will reduce it from fast mode. The audio, again, slightly disappointing, 2 5-watt chambers. It does support eARC, which is nice though, which also supports Dolby Atmos, and everything that you listen to in this video came recorded directly from the projector. The Android 9 system and Bluetooth 4.2, which is a little bit slow, and Google Cast is built in. The dimensions and weight, as we mentioned to you earlier, it's a decent size and a little bit on the rotund side. And also the price, well, I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video, but I will leave a latest live price link in the description so that you can check that out for yourself. So guys, I'm really interested in knowing what your thoughts are of this projector. I absolutely love it. It's grown on me the more and more I've used it. I love the gaming element of it, and it does those other things really well as well. So this is really a strong contender for you to consider. Thank you so much as always for watching this. If there's any questions, just pop them down below and I'll do my very best to answer them. And I look forward to seeing you on the next review. And remember, let me know whether you do want me to do that comparison I spoke about earlier. Thanks again, my friends. Speak to you on the next one.